I'm Pamela. Sitting at my desk, looking out at the magnificent coastal paradise resort I built from the ground up, I'm still processing the events of the past few days. The room is filled with the soft hum of the air conditioner and the distant sound of the ocean waves. My family is gone now, but the echoes of our confrontation still linger in the air. It all started during a morning meeting with my development team. We were deep in discussions about the final plans for a new $40 million spa complex. The project was a jewel in the crown of my coastal paradise resorts, and I was fully immersed in the architect's presentation. Suddenly, my phone buzzed on the conference table. It was a text from my brother, Leo. Seaside cottage. You never use it anyway. Found a buyer willing to pay $180,000. Closing next week. You're welcome, the message read. I stared at it for a few seconds, then returned my focus to the meeting. The spa was going to have 17 treatment rooms, an infinity pool overlooking the Pacific, and a meditation garden with native coastal plants. It was far more interesting than whatever Leo thought he'd achieved. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Mom in the family group chat. Good, it was an embarrassment. That old thing made our family look poor. Leo did you a favor, Pamela, she wrote. Then Leo chimed in again, seriously, you should be thanking me. $180,000 for that dump is a miracle. I'm taking my 10% finder's fee. That's only fair. I typed a simple okay and muted the chat. My assistant, Sarah, who had been by my side for 8 years, caught my eye. She saw everything that came across my devices. Her expression was neutral, but I detected a slight raise of her eyebrow, asking if I wanted her to handle it. I shook my head almost imperceptibly. Not yet. The meeting continued for another 90 minutes. We approved the spa design, discussed the 18-month timeline from groundbreaking to opening, and reviewed the projected revenue impact. Conservative estimates put the spa's annual revenue at $8 million once fully operational. I signed off on the $112 million budget without hesitation. As we wrapped up, Sarah informed me that Leo had called the main resort line 4 times in the last hour. I told her not to put him through. She asked if I needed anything prepared, perhaps legal assistance. I decided to wait and see how things played out. By the time I returned to my office overlooking the resort grounds, Leo had called 6 more times. Mom had sent a dozen texts, each more effusive about how smart Leo was to get rid of the eyesore. My sister, Lily, also joined in, saying it was about time someone in the family made a practical decision and that the beach house was always a waste. The beach house in question was a 3-bedroom cottage on prime oceanfront property. I bought it 14 years ago for $220,000 when I was just starting out. It was my first real estate purchase, made with every penny I'd saved from working 3 jobs through college and 2 years of brutal hours at an investment firm. The cottage itself was modest, a bit weathered and in need of updates. But the land it sat on was the key to what would become Coastal Paradise Resort. Over the next 13 years, I carefully and systematically purchased every piece of property around it. The old motel 2 lots down, the shuttered restaurant next door, the vacation rentals across the street, and the empty lots that no one wanted because they thought the area was declining. Piece by piece, I assembled 73 acres of premium oceanfront real estate. Then I built an empire on it. Coastal Paradise Resort now featured 2 luxury hotels, 48 private villas, 3 restaurants, 2 golf courses, a marina, a shopping village, and soon that spectacular new spa. The property was valued at just over $900 million. We employed 2,400 people, and last year's revenue was $147 million. In the middle of it all, on the most valuable acre of the entire complex, sat my little beach shack. I kept it exactly as it was, a modest, unassuming place, a little worn around the edges. It was my private retreat, the place where I went to remember where I started and why I built all of this. And Leo had just sold it. My phone rang. It was Leo again. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, Sarah buzzed through, saying Leo claimed it was urgent, something about paperwork and the buyer backing out. I decided to put him through. Thank God. We have a serious problem. The buyer got a call from some resort manager saying the property isn't actually for sale, that there's some kind of ownership issue, Leo said frantically. Interesting, I said mildly. Interesting? Pamela, this is a disaster. I already spent my finder's fee. I put down a deposit on a new BMW. You need to fix this right now, he pleaded. Fix what, exactly? I asked. The ownership issue. Look, I know you're not great with paperwork and legal stuff. You never were. But, I need you to call the resort people and explain that yes, you own that cottage and yes, you're selling it. The buyer is threatening to walk away, he said. Why would I do that? I replied. There was a moment of silence. Then he asked, what do you mean why would you do that? Because I already arranged the sale. Because you never use that place anyway. Because $180,000 is a fortune for that dump. Leo, let me ask you something. How did you arrange to sell a property you don't own? I questioned. I have your power of attorney, remember? You gave it to me 5 years ago when you were traveling and needed someone to handle your mail, he said. Actually, I'd given him limited power of attorney to sign for package deliveries. But, apparently, he'd interpreted that more broadly. I see. And you used that to forge my signature on a sales contract, I accused. I didn't forge anything. I had legal authority to act on your behalf. Pamela, seriously, I'm trying to help you here. That cottage is falling apart. It's surrounded by all this fancy resort stuff that makes it look even worse. I did you a favor finding someone willing to pay anything for it, he argued. What resort stuff? I asked innocently. The Coastal Paradise Resort. It's everywhere around your cottage. That's actually why the buyer wanted it. They think it'll increase in value because of the resort. Though, personally, I think they're idiots. The resort is probably going to buy up that land eventually anyway and tear down anything that's there, he said. Probably, I agreed. So, you see why we need to sell now. Get the money before the resort forces you out for pennies. He was getting agitated. Pamela, I'm serious. Call them. Fix this. The buyer is waiting. Who's the buyer? I asked. Some investment group. Oceanic Ventures LLC. They're paying cash, which is why we need to move fast. These kinds of buyers don't wait around, he replied. I knew Oceanic Ventures LLC. It was a legitimate firm, but known for aggressive tactics. They specialized in finding valuable properties near luxury developments, buying them cheap, and then immediately flipping them to the developments themselves for double or triple the price. Let me make some calls. I'll handle it, I said. Thank you, Leo said, his relief palpable. Seriously, thank you. And Pamela, when this goes through, maybe you should think about investing that money properly. I know a guy who does financial planning. He could really help you build something with that $180,000. I'll keep that in mind, I replied. After I hung up, Sarah appeared in my doorway. Mark called, she said. Mark was the general manager of Coastal Paradise Resort. Technically, my employee, but I preferred operating through holding companies and management firms to avoid complications. And? I asked. He said a Mr. Leo has been calling repeatedly, claiming to be authorized to sell the cottage property. Mark wanted to verify before taking any action, she explained. What did you tell him? I asked. Nothing yet. I wanted your instructions first, she replied. I considered for a moment. I could shut it down immediately, embarrass Leo, and be done with it. But where was the lesson in that? Tell Mark to schedule a meeting with Leo. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Conference room A. Leo wants to sell the cottage? Let's discuss it properly, I said. Sarah's professional mask slipped just slightly, a hint of a smile. Should I prepare anything specific? She asked. Just the usual property documentation. Oh, and make sure Tom is available, I said. Tom was our head legal counsel, a Harvard law graduate with 20 years of experience and utterly unflappable. This is going to be educational, Sarah said. That evening, Mom called. Pamela, sweetheart, Leo told me there's some hold up with the cottage sale. I hope you're not being difficult about this. I'm not being anything, Mom. Leo arranged a meeting with the resort management to discuss it, I replied. Well, good. It's about time you got rid of that place. Honestly, when I think about how embarrassing it is to tell my friends that my daughter owns that shabby little cottage right in the middle of one of the most exclusive resorts on the coast, she said. It must be very hard for you, I said. It is. Do you know what Carol said last month when we drove past it? She said, "Oh, is that where Pamela lives?" How quaint. Quaint, Pamela. That's code for poor, she sighed. I see. Your father and I have worked so hard to build a good reputation in this community. Your sister, Lily, married the Thompson's son. Do you know what the Thompsons are worth? And Leo has his car dealership doing so well. But then people drive by Coastal Paradise and see that cottage and think. She sighed dramatically. Well, you understand, she said. I do understand, Mom, I replied. So, you'll sign whatever papers Leo brings you. Let him handle this. He really is trying to help, you know? He's always been the practical one in the family. Leo is definitely something, she said. The next day, I dressed carefully. I chose simple slacks, a plain blouse, and minimal jewelry, the kind of outfit that suggested I was doing okay, nothing special, certainly not successful by my family's standards. I arrived at Coastal Paradise Resort at 1:45 p.m. Parking my 5-year-old Honda in the guest lot. Leo's new BMW was already there, gleaming in the afternoon sun. Inside the lobby, it was as spectacular as always. 30-foot ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific, and custom chandeliers that cost more than most people's houses. Guests in expensive resort were lounged in clusters, sipping craft cocktails from our award-winning bar. Leo was pacing near the concierge desk, checking his watch. He spotted me and rushed over. Finally. I've been here 20 minutes. These people are so particular about punctuality, he said. He looked me up and down, his expression shifting to barely concealed disappointment. That's what you're wearing? Pamela, this is a business meeting at a luxury resort. You couldn't have dressed up a little? I came straight from work, I replied. Right. Your work, he said with that tone that suggested whatever I did for work couldn't possibly be important. Come on, the conference room is this way. And please let me do the talking. I've already established a rapport with the management team. We took the elevator to the 3rd floor, where the executive offices were located. I designed this floor myself, insisting on natural light and ocean views for every office. The conference room Leo led us to was one of my favorites, with floor-to-ceiling windows on 2 walls, a custom table made from reclaimed wood salvaged from old fishing boats, and chairs that cost $3,000 each for comfort during long meetings. Mark was already there, along with Tom and 2 other members of my executive team. Mark stood when we entered, professional and composed as always. Mr. Leo, he said, shaking Leo's hand. Thank you for coming. And you must be Ms. Pamela. He turned to me with a handshake. Pamela, I said simply. Please, have a seat, Mark gestured to the far side of the table, the side where visitors sat, where people without power sat. It was strange seeing it from this angle, as I'd sat on the other side of this table hundreds of times. Leo dove right in. So, let's clear this up quickly. My sister owns the cottage property, has owned it for years. I have power of attorney, which gives me the right to handle the sale on her behalf. The buyer is ready to close. We just need your resort to stop interfering with the process. Mark exchanged a glance with Tom. I see. Mr. Leo, I appreciate you coming in to discuss this, but I'm afraid there are some complications you may not be aware of. What complications? It's a straightforward property sale, Leo said. The cottage sits on land that's integral to our resort operations. Any sale of that property would need to be coordinated with resort management. We have first right of refusal on any sales within the resort boundaries, Mark explained. Leo frowned. Resort boundaries? The cottage isn't part of the resort. It's just near it. I'm afraid that's not quite accurate, Tom said, sliding a map across the table. It showed the full extent of Coastal Paradise Resort property, outlined in blue. Leo's face went through several interesting color changes as he realized the cottage was right in the middle of that blue outline. This can't be right, he stammered. Pamela's cottage has been there for 14 years. The resort was built to round it. Actually, Tom said carefully, the resort was built by acquiring properties in this area over a 13-year period, starting 14 years ago. The cottage was the first property purchased by the resort's owner. Everything else was built around it, as you say. I watched Leo trying to process this. I could see the moment he thought he understood. Wait, so the resort wants to buy Pamela's cottage? That's perfect. We can negotiate a much better price than $180,000. If it's that important to your operations, we should be talking about at least $500,000. Maybe more, he said, suddenly confident. Mark's expression didn't change. Mr. Leo, I don't think you understand the situation. I understand perfectly. You need that land, we have it. That's called leverage, Leo said, leaning back in his chair. Here's what's going to happen. We'll cancel the sale to Oceanic Ventures. Then we'll negotiate a proper price with the resort. I'm thinking $750,000 is fair. That property is worth more to you than anyone else. Leo, I started. Pamela, please. Let me handle this. This is business negotiation. It's what I do, he interrupted, turning back to Mark. So, do we have a deal? Or do I take that Oceanic Ventures offer and let them be your problem? Tom cleared his throat. Mr. Leo, there seems to be a fundamental misunderstanding. The resort doesn't want to buy the property. The resort already owns it. Silence filled the room. That's impossible, Leo said flatly. Pamela owns it. She bought it 14 years ago. Pamela purchased the property 14 years ago, yes, Tom agreed. Under the entity Shoreline Holdings, LLC. That same entity subsequently purchased every other piece of property that now comprises Coastal Paradise Resort. Shoreline Holdings is the sole owner of this entire resort complex. The cottage, the hotels, the restaurants, the golf courses, the marina, all of it. Leo laughed, but it sounded forced. Okay, this is getting ridiculous. My sister is not some corporate entity. She works in. What is it, Pamela? Something with computers. Property development, I said quietly. Right, property development. Some entry-level thing, I'm sure, he said, looking at Mark. Look, I don't know what kind of scam you're trying to pull here, but my sister owns a cottage. That's it. One small cottage. She doesn't own your fancy resort. Mark finally looked at me. Ms. Pamela, would you like to clarify the situation? I think Tom's explanation was quite clear, I said. Pamela, what is he talking about? Leo demanded. I bought the cottage 14 years ago. It was my first property investment. Over the next year, I bought 3 more properties nearby. Then 6 more the year after that. I quit my job at the investment firm, took out loans, reinvested every profit. I spent 13 years acquiring land, getting permits, finding investors, building infrastructure. Coastal Paradise Resort opened its first hotel 6 years ago. We've expanded continuously since then, I explained, my voice calm and measured. Leo was shaking his head. No, that's... You can't. Mom and Dad would have known. They would have told us. Why would they know? Did you all ever ask what I did for work? Did anyone ever ask how I spent my time, what I was building, what I'd accomplished? I said, keeping my voice gentle. You all assumed I was struggling. You assumed the cottage was all I had. And I never corrected you because honestly, it didn't matter what you thought. This is insane, Leo whispered. Tom slid another document across the table. This is the deed to the cottage property. As you can see, it's registered to Shoreline Holdings, LLC. Here's the corporate registration showing Pamela as founder and sole owner. Here's the deed to the rest of the resort properties. And here, he added another thick folder, are the documents you signed claiming to have power of attorney to sell property you don't actually have any authority over. Leo's face had gone from red